Grass, plants, and trees. Welcome back to Sound Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another episode. In this rendition of the NBA playoff review, Xav and I are looking at the previous round, the conference finals. He'll be taking on the West with his Lakers. I'll be taking on the East with my Heat. And then we'll predict the finals. But before that, Xav has a few words to say about a certain organization who fired their coach yesterday and had a postseason to forget.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to give a shout out to the whole NBA. We're now 7 games away from crowning an NBA champion, and we've had very little slip ups to create a bubble with hundreds and hundreds of people and only have like 3 or 4 mistakes. I know there was the Rashawn Holmes one at the start before he even knew the rules, where he was trying to get the steak on the first week, the lemon pepper Lou one, and the Daniel House one. But other than those three, it's an incredible job. But the Clippers, I mean, we did a previous video where we were reacting to the second round of the playoffs and the first and second round of the playoffs. And we just assumed that the Clippers were going to make it. And I think that was a mistake on our part, but more so a mistake on their part. I mean, they're up 3-1, and it's probably one of the worst choke jobs we've ever seen in the NBA, in the history of the NBA. I mean, yeah, it was horrible. And Kawhi, he shot 24% in the fourth quarter for the whole series. He scored 2 points in the fourth quarter of a game 7. Like, imagine if LeBron got 2 points in the fourth quarter of a series, and imagine if LeBron shot 24% in the fourth quarter, and imagine if LeBron choked a 3-1 lead. And it's really bad. And I think it showed a little bit the importance of the regular season. I mean, I've seen a lot of people talk about like they're not built to verse the Nuggets, they were built for the Lakers. But I mean, if they got the 1 seed and they tried more during the regular season, maybe they wouldn't have had to verse the Nuggets, and maybe they wouldn't have versed the Mavericks. And it's all a little bit interesting. And obviously, as you said, Doc Rivers got fired, and I just want to say that's because of Kawhi as well. I don't want to hear anything about like it was Steve Ballmer's decision or Lou Williams. I think the NBA, more so than any other league in the world, is a star-driven league, and a coach doesn't leave, or a new coach doesn't come without the man in number 2 saying that that's what he wants. I think it's not very good for the Clippers, and I think the whole league wanted to see a Clippers versus Lakers, or the whole world wanted to see a Clippers versus Lakers Western Conference Finals, but the Clippers robbed us of that. LeBron and his Lakers, they did their job, they got there, but the Clippers choking 3-1. It's horrible.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
surprised you didn't mention Paul George as well. He hit the
Yeah,
side
he
of the
was he was
backboard.
horrible as well. The entire Clippers, to be honest, right from Lou Williams, he could struggle to score the whole series, and outside of scoring, he's not very good at basketball. And Paul George, he was horrible all series. He shot terribly as well. But I mean, Kawhi, for the same reason as LeBron. I mean, we've watched LeBron lose final after final after final after final, and he's copped all of the blame. But I mean, now Kawhi loses the Western Conference Final, and it's really his first ever thing, first ever playoff series where all of the pressure is actually on him. I mean, the first time he won Finals MVP, he was with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. Then last year, they didn't really have any real expectations. Not many people had them going to the finals, and then definitely no one had them
Mm.
winning until Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson got injured. But the pressure was on, and I guess he cracked a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think their chemistry was atrocious. I mean, they didn't really gel together in the regular season, and then in the off season, you could tell they just weren't built as a team.
Yeah,
Guys
definitely.
like Morris
Um,
weren't performing. Lou Will, as you said, Harrell, he played well, but not his dominant self.
Yeah, I think they were definitely the paper champions. I've said many times, even on the podcast, that they had the better team on paper than any other team, and it wasn't really close. But I mean, as I said, Lemon Pepper Lou, he missed time, and Montrezl Harrell was grieving, so he missed time. Kawhi Leonard took every second game off. Paul George was injured for a lot of the season. They added pieces at the trade deadline, so they never really played together, and they never really gelled. But
No.
I mean, again, I think it shows a little bit of the importance of the regular season.
And whether or not Paul George leaves or stays, it's going to be a huge off season. They might continue to recruit, but they've got a great team as it is. It's astounding how they choked a 3-1 lead against Denver side, who didn't even have Will Barton, who's a key role player for them. But geez, Jamal Murray, he has to be if not the player of the playoffs, obviously top three and
Mm.
counting. So we'll move on to the East and the West. We'll do game by game. Do you want to kick us off with the West, game one?
So game one, I think, of Lakers versus Denver. The Lakers obviously got the W, but I think this was probably the worst game of the series. LeBron had 15, 12, and 6, but was rested for a fair amount of the game. And Anthony Davis, he was the star of the game, clearly with a 37-point double-double and carrying LeBron and the rest of the Lakers. And the myth of Anthony Davis carrying LeBron throughout the whole entire playoff started in this game. But yeah, it wasn't very close, and Lakers got an easy win.
Yeah, they did. So 1-0 for the Lakers. In game one of Miami-Boston, both teams looking to set the tone. And from the first quarter, we knew the series would be gritty, hard fought, and just an adventure. Every game was close until last few minutes. And in the end, it was Bam Adebayo who had this game-saving block, more memorable moment, and Jason Tatum with less than 3 seconds remaining. And on the scoring end, Tatum had 30 for Boston, and Dragic, who's seriously underrated in my opinion, had 29 in the game one. So Heat win it by 3.
Game two, I think this one might take a while because I reckon it was the game of the series. But the Lakers were up 11. LeBron James, he came out absolutely firing, scoring most of his points in the first half, but he significantly slowed down and only finished with 26 and 11. The Lakers looked like putting the game away, but the Nuggets stormed home and actually hit the front. But Anthony Davis, he stepped up, hitting mid-range jumper from the elbow after mid-range jumper after mid-range jumper. And Jokic came up very big in the last few minutes and got the Nuggets from down 11 and to actually hitting the front. The last play was very interesting in this game. We saw LeBron get the ball, drive to the ring, kicked it out, and then Alex Caruso had the wide open three but missed. Danny Green got lucky enough to have the ball fall into his hands, and the shot was blocked by Murray, and then there were 2 seconds left in the game. Lakers down 1. Rondo, we saw asked for the inbound play and got it to Anthony Davis, and the rest was history after that big shot. So
Yeah.
The rumors and the myths of Anthony Davis carrying LeBron continued to grow after that game,
Yeah, huge shot. Huge shot. Game two for Miami rather, and Miami did go up 2-0, another close game, and Boston were out of the gates real early and managed to gather a lead of up to 17 before Miami outscored them 37-17 in the third quarter. And from then, they held the lead, and Goran Dragic once again came up clutch with 2 late jumpers and 25 points.
Yeah. Game three, LeBron was massive in game three, especially if you look at the box score, 30, 11, and 10. But that wasn't the story of this game. Jamal Murray and Jokic were very big for the Nuggets, finishing with 28 and 22 points respectively. But it was the other Nuggets that stood up, especially Jeremy Grant, who stood up with 26 points alongside very good defense, and Monte Morris, who finished with 14 points. But I think the biggest storyline in this game was the Lakers struggle. The Lakers having the struggle on the boards. We saw Anthony Davis, Dwight, and JaVale McGee, who are 3 genuine big men, only combined for 4 rebounds. We saw JaVale and Dwight have 1 and AD have 2. But the Lakers got out rebounded by 16 and had the lowest rebounds for a long time. I had the stat, but I can't find it with me at the moment. But more than 10 years, I think it was. So it's hard to win when you get out rebounded by 16. The Nuggets got that W, and Lakers had a 2-1 series lead.
Yeah, and we've seen Jeremy Grant has opted out of his contract. I could see him fitting in at a possible Dallas team or maybe even Miami or something. Where do you see him going?
I think there's still a chance that he'll stay at the Nuggets just on more money, but I don't really know. He could go anywhere.
Yeah, it was huge for them, mainly on the defensive side, but when he hits those threes, he's a killer. Game 4, or game 3, should I say, this was probably the most frustrating game for me, and once again another good game, but Miami couldn't hit shots down the stretch, and Jaylen Brown was an absolute monster, hitting corner threes and corner mid-ranges. He loves that spot. And I still think they need to feed him the ball more. Tatum obviously gets a spotlight for a reason. He's an absolute star. But Jaylen Brown, somewhat underrated. He makes so many shots and he's a clutch player as well. But yeah, Tatum impressive as usual, and they were still in the series at this point, 2-1.
This one was a very interesting game, game 4. We saw Dwight come out in the first half and get a double-double. 10 rebounds in the first half was massive, and he was a big spark plug for the Lakers. And a big reason that they got out to an early lead. And obviously, they didn't want to make the same mistakes of getting out rebounded again. Anthony Davis, we saw him drop 34 points, but struggled on the boards once again. Although he did come up very clutch in the last quarter with a few offensive rebounds. LeBron just tracked along, having a plain average game, but he came up so big in the last 2 minutes, putting the absolute clamps on Jamal Murray, who was threatening to take the game for the Nuggets once again. In this game, though, the Nuggets stormed back. Murray was hitting crazy layups after crazy layup. But yeah, LeBron, he put the clamps on and won the Lakers the game. We've seen it before, but I found this very interesting. We saw him put the clamps on Derrick Rose in the playoffs. We saw him put the clamps on Tony Parker in the NBA Finals. But to be doing the same thing 10 years later and guarding the best player who was threatening to take a playoff game from the Lakers, I find incredible. And I think even more incredible was two of the best players in the league in Giannis and Kawhi Leonard didn't do the same thing. I mean, in the first round of the playoffs, Kawhi didn't guard Luka Doncic down the stretch, and much bigger one is the Giannis on Jimmy Butler. I mean, Defensive Player of the Year, and he said he wanted to wait for Coach Bud to give him the assignment, but we saw a different mindset in LeBron. He said that he told Coach Vogel that he wanted to guard Jamal Murray, and we saw that was a big point of difference, and ultimately won them the game.
Yeah, and Dwight definitely redeemed himself in Game 4. Game 4 for Miami, another intense game, but the star was born, Tyler Hero. He was already a certified bucket, but I don't think he received enough credit. He's had double digits in every playoff game, which is absolutely extraordinary for a rookie. But he had 37, which was the most since Magic Johnson for a player under the age of 20 years old. And it's guaranteed players like Jimmy and Bam will have major impacts, so that's why I haven't mentioned them thus far. Jason Tatum almost pulled him over the line, and Jaylen Brown once again played well alongside Kemba. But Miami took the game 4 by 3 points, and they as well had a 3-1 lead.
Game 5, man, virtuoso is all I can say. It was art. LeBron, he put the whole team on his back, and he said, "I'm going to my 10th final. I don't care what you guys do." He dropped 38, 16, and 10. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, AD was okay. Danny Green played some good defense, and Caruso played well, but nothing stacks up in the slightest to what LeBron did in that game.
Yeah, 100%. Memorable performance, and all those shots down the stretch, which he struggled to do in one of the games. I don't remember, but yeah. Great shots down the end.
I think it was like 22 points in the second half and 12 in the last quarter, or 16 in the last quarter. So I don't have the exact numbers, but he was big in the second half.
I know you loved watching that. Game 5 of Miami-Boston. So Miami started the game off strong, looking to close them out in a gentleman's sweep, 5 games. However, Boston went on a devastating run in the third, and they just had momentum for the rest of the game. Tatum had 0 points in the first quarter, but finished with 31, so knocking down every shot possible in the second half especially. And Marcus Smart continued to hit timely threes, giving them a glimmer of hope to win the series. And they took this one pretty comfortably by 13 points, so 3-2. And I'll go to Game 6 because the Lakers closed them out in Game 5. Game 6, Miami started well, which was a rare occurrence in the series. But as usual, Boston fought back. It was kind of the main theme of the series. With 10 minutes to go, they led by 6, but Miami finished on a 35-17 run, including clutch shots from Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Andre Iguodala, who hasn't scored a whole lot, but he went 4 for 4 from the 3, finishing with 14 points. It was his highest tally since Game 6 of the 2019 NBA Finals, which he played for Golden State. But shout out to Boston. They put up a really great fight, and Miami won this game by 12 points in the end. And I think Boston will definitely be contenders for the next few years. If they can implement everyone in their game, like Game 6, where everyone was making shots and contributing, they'll be a serious threat. And Gordon Hayward, there's been some rumors about him leaving. What is your take on that situation?
Yeah, I did see something about Gordon Hayward getting drafted traded for Victor Oladipo. So I think that's interesting. I reckon if I was the Celtics, I'd be going after a big man though, because Daniel Tice is good and Enes Kanter is good, but that's probably their weakness. I know they've got a lot of guard play in Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Kemba. They're all very good guard or wings, whatever you want to call them. But I think a center is definitely their weakness.
Yeah. I do think Cantor was great though, especially in the minutes he played.
Yeah.
In the first 30 seconds of one game, he had 4 or 6 points or something. And I know he's not great on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, he really gives you an opportunity to feed it inside and then kick it out if needed. So that's the game by game review. And do you want to predict the finals now? Is there something else you would want to say?
First of all, just a big shout out to obviously the Lakers, but Eric Spoelstra and the Heat. They did an incredible job making it. It's only the third time in the last 36 years that a fifth seed or lower has made it to the NBA Finals, along with the Knicks and Rockets did it once each as well. But yeah, well done to both of them. My prediction, I think the Lakers will win in 6 games. Some people are predicting a sweep, but I think it'll be a lot closer than some people think. I think the Heat match up well against LeBron and Anthony Davis in particular. I've said it before, but Jay Crowder, Iguodala, and Jimmy
Yeah.
Butler, they're all good, great defenders that can all switch on to LeBron. And Bam Adebayo, I think, is one of the better matchups in the league for Anthony Davis. So I've got Lakers in 6.
Yeah, I do think the Lakers will win, but you got to have some confidence, Dave. I'm tipping Miami. I'm tipping them in 7 games. To be honest, I think Lakers will win in 6, but you have to have some hope. And as you said, we match up well against them. We've got players like Bam, but I think Bam will struggle on the offensive end. So we need that spark from Goran Dragic, who's our leading scorer in the playoffs. And guys like Tyler Hero need to continue shooting. So, and maybe even Derek Jones gets some minutes as well because he's very versatile. He's
Yeah,
athletic.
he is another body as well that can switch on to LeBron.
Yeah.
I do think that some of the lesser known players will be the key in this series because, as I said, they've got good defensive matchups, but it's going to be the likes of Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and Gordon Dragic that give them the offensive spark that they're going to need if they are to win this series.
I've got 2 main points. I think the Lakers role players, such as KCP and Danny Green, have to start knocking down shots because if they don't, then they're in some serious trouble because they'll just leave them open. Their confidence will go down and they might continue to miss, as we've seen in other games this year. And 2, I think it's the bench hype. We've seen the Lakers with JaVale on the bench and mainly Myers Leonard for Miami. They just give some spark and every little play that happens they celebrate and it just gives them more momentum so to push them forward. So yeah, both benches are great, both teams are great. And I know it's heavily in favor of the Lakers, but I just hope Miami can prove everyone wrong and maybe upset them or just take a few games from them.
Yeah, I know. On a similar note to your point about the role players, I was listening to Chris Broussard from FS1, and he was saying something along the lines of the Lakers can't lose this series. The Heat can't win this series. It's going to be up to the Lakers to lose it.
Mm.
He was saying the only way that they can lose it is if they keep turning the ball over, which they've done a lot in the playoffs and in the regular season. Miss free throws, which they've done a lot in the regular season and in the playoffs. And if their role players don't turn up and don't hit shots, as you said, the likes of KCP and Danny Green are going to be very important if the Lakers are to get the win.
Kuzma as well. He's very
Yeah.
hot and cold. So yeah, and you know he can be good. He's had 20 points a few times and he wouldn't miss. So it's up to them, I believe. They're the main factor. And that does it.
I
So
do want to talk a little bit more. I know you're probably going to be saying enough of LeBron, but I want to talk a little bit more on that.
I was just going to say, and that does it, but if you want to. I was going to
On
the
on
AFL.
LeBron and the Lakers a little bit.
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of like it's a cakewalk for LeBron, it's a cakewalk for the Lakers, but I was watching Speak for Yourself on FS1 and they said something along the lines of like ultimately the media is going to decide whether LeBron or Jordan is the GOAT. And the person that I was listening to pointed out that the media before this playoffs and before the season were saying that the Lakers were not heavy favorites, and it wasn't a cakewalk. He brought up Sam Smith, who had the Lakers as the 4th seed. The New York Times polled 8 experts, and only one of the 8 had the Lakers even reaching the Western Conference Finals, and that was losing to the Clippers. The Sporting News had the Lakers as the 4 seed. ESPN and their 100 experts had them as the 5th seed and in the Western Conference Finals, and not a single one of them voted and had the 5th seed and in the Western Conference Finals. And in the same 100 experts were polled on the best player, and not a single one of them voted LeBron or LeBron didn't get the most votes for the best player. And there were also lots of talks about like chemistry. It's all a new team and how would they all gel together, and their defense would lack. But we've seen they got the 1 seed. They're in the Western Conference Finals. They won the Western Conference Finals. They're now in the finals, and they were one of the best defensive teams. I think LeBron brought a lot of chemistry, but Anthony Davis, he needs a shout out for all of the defensive issues that he's masked up for not only the regular season but in the playoffs as well. I was along with Dwight and Xavier McGee. They're all elite rim protectors. I do have a few questions for you though.
Mhm.
Does LeBron have more to win or more to gain or more to lose in the finals this year?
Well, I do think it is the Lakers to lose, so I think it's more to lose. But the one thing that will irritate me if Miami managed to win is how LeBron continues to get criticism. Obviously, he's only won 3 out of the 9 finals he's been in, but to get to 9 finals is impressive in itself. And for the majority of those finals, he wasn't the leading team. We've spoke about this before. The only one that I think he should have won was 2011 against Dallas, but the other ones he was definitely on the team that was expected to lose, like Miami now, on the back foot. So I think he has more to lose. He should be able to get his 4th ring, but it'll be a great matchup. And I think two underrated sides at the start of the season. You're saying the Lakers weren't expected to make it by a bunch of analysts. Miami were expected at the most the 7th seed.
Yeah.
And I know Philadelphia fans are probably restating their opinions now. But yeah, so I think more to lose.
Do you reckon this would bring a ring would bring him closer to Michael Jordan, an extra ring?
Yeah, I've said it multiple times before. I do think, well, it's hard for me just because I haven't watched Jordan. I feel like others who have watched Jordan can make that opinion, but I know you're very front-footed on the LeBron side, so
Yeah.
yeah, I do.
I think both of them are interesting questions that I've seen brought up a lot. The LeBron, does LeBron have more to win or lose? I've seen most people are saying lose, but in my opinion, I don't think anyone can really take away from the legacy that they've already built. I think
Mhm.
people can only add. But I know Paul Pierce, he said if LeBron wins, he becomes the second best player of all time, in his opinion. But so he jumps from outside of his top 5 to number 2. But he said he's still going to need to win at least 3 more to pass Jordan, which I find interesting. Um, and does it bring him closer to Jordan? I think it does. But I was listening to Stephen A. Smith, who said there's nothing LeBron can do to pass Jordan. He reckons he could win 4 or 5 more championships, and he still won't be the best of all time because he said something about the road that people take to get there. I don't know. I think LeBron's still the best, but
Could I just bring up something? I know this is very random, but the 2008 Celtics team, I saw this article where it had then and now, and it was the 2008 Celtics, and it had Ray Allen, who hates them now, and Rondo's on the Lakers, and then you've got Garnett, who still thinks he's in 2008, and then you've got Paul Pierce and Kendrick Perkins, who are two of the more questionable analysts in the NBA now. So I don't know if Paul Pierce, he just hates LeBron because LeBron has upset him so many times. As soon as he joined two other monsters with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, he killed them. So I don't know if Paul Pierce has something against LeBron. I'm guessing he does
yeah.
because that take to me is ridiculous. I'm not usually the type to say that, but yeah.
I
I just,
think an underrated storyline as well is I'm not 100% certain, but I do believe that Kyle Kuzma's ex-girlfriend is currently dating Tyler Hero. So
mm,
that might be an interesting little play as well.
yeah, it is. A bit of rivalry going on there. Anything else to say, Zay?
That's it from me. Well done to the Heat, and a big well done to the Heat, and well done to Lakers and LeBron
Mm,
as well.
yeah, 100%. Well done.
Yeah, finals. Good.
Well done. Good luck. Next time we talk, it'll be game 2 or 3, I believe. So that does it for
Good
this
luck to you
review.
as well, bro.
Good luck, Xav. That does it for this review. The next AFL episode will be out shortly in a few days by the time you see this. And go Miami. We'll catch you next time and see you later.